now with stocks looking like they're plummeting on Wall Street after President Trump confirmed plans to impose new tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and it starts at the end of the night tonight. So we do want to look at the Dow here. These are the numbers right here. So we're watching this very closely as, again, it does appear that the stocks are falling sharply. We're keeping an eye on this, and Elizabeth Schulze will break it down for us here in moments. Also, the president is telling reporters that the United States will impose 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico, while announcing a new $100 billion investment in America from a Taiwanese chip maker.
I would just say this to people in Canada or Mexico: if they're going to build car plants, the people that are doing them are much better off building here, because we have the market. We're the market where they sell the most.
Well, all of this is renewing some fears of a potential trade war between the United States and our North American neighbors. ABC News' Elizabeth Schulze is tracking all of this for us from our D.C. bureau. So, Elizabeth, glad to have you with us. So, first of all, what do we know about the measures that are set to take effect really, again, late tonight, early tomorrow? And I know that you're watching the markets closely. How are they reacting?
Right, of course. And what we got from President Trump that caused that market sell-off, Kana, was confirmation of this really sweeping set of tariffs that is set to take effect after midnight tonight. So what we're talking about here is 25% tariffs on all imports from Mexico, 25% tariffs on imports from Canada with a slightly lower rate on Canadian oil, and then an additional 10% tariff on goods from China. That's on top of 10% that already took effect earlier this month. So really, this is a significant move when you think about just the scope of trading that happens between the U.S. and those three biggest trading partners. About 40% of all of the goods that come into the United States every year come from those three countries. And what President Trump confirmed just a little bit ago was that, yes, those tariffs will go into effect as of now. And one of the reasons why we saw that sell-off in the stock market is that investors who I talked to say they had hoped that there would be some sort of deal at the last minute where Trump would delay or maybe suspend some of what was going to take effect. And so far, with still a couple hours left in the day, but that does not look like it's going to happen. The president following through on his threat. And that does make investors on the stock market a little bit nervous, because they say, what is this going to look like for companies? How much more are companies going to be paying to import products into the U.S.? And ultimately, how much will they pass down those higher costs to consumers and to households? That would have a big impact on the economy. Estimates of up to $2,000 per household, Kana, when you think about just the scope of these measures, if they stay in place for a long time and if they're not lifted after a short amount of time.
And that's a lot of money for Americans that are already hurting. And honestly, the president was asked today, point blank, do you think that there is still time for a deal here, that perhaps Canada, perhaps Mexico will come to the table and avoid these tariffs? And he really shook that off, said he didn't think so. But also, Elizabeth, can you kind of bring us up to speed here generally on where we're at with tariffs? We also hear about reciprocal tariffs as well from the president all the time. And it also appears that they're really looking closely now down the line here at agriculture in the United States. What happens to that, as well as the automobile industry?
They are. And so much of this is hard to decipher because we know that President Trump likes to use tariffs as a negotiating tactic, right? He says this is a way to get leaders of other countries to the table to talk about policies that we want to change. Remember, some of what he wanted to see take effect after these China or after the Canada and Mexico tariffs was changes about fentanyl and immigration, not necessarily directly related to trade policy. But now he has threatened those much more sweeping reciprocal tariffs. This would be for really all countries in the world, the U.S. matching whatever rate it pays, trying to make it a more even playing field. And the argument there from President Trump, Kana, is that this encourages American companies to buy more of their goods within the United States. We are seeing the president tout some big investments in the U.S. from global companies. Just today, he was talking with a Taiwanese chip maker about an investment in the United States. So he says even the threat of tariffs convinces companies that it's worth it to do more business within the U.S. But, of course, the problem is that a lot of that onshoring takes time. It doesn't necessarily mean that companies can make that decision and it'll happen within a matter of months. And a lot of businesses are making decisions about planning months or years in advance. And right now, this uncertainty about when will these tariffs take effect? How long will they stay in place? When exactly is this going to happen is causing a lot of question marks for companies who are trying to make those plans. And that is trickling into uncertainty for consumers. maybe not pulling back on their spending, Kana, but thinking a little bit more, should I spend that extra amount right now when I'm trying to figure out what it's going to look like down the line a couple weeks, months from now?
Right, and if some business owners are prepared to take a hit right now for long-term gains, I think the big question is how long can they really last?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Schulze, our thanks to you as always.